Hello, dear friend. I'd like to speak to you about defensiveness and our defense mechanisms. One thing I'll say about defensiveness is that anytime you become defensive, it's because you are in some sort of illusion. What do I mean by that? When you're coming from the truth of your heart, then truth doesn't need any defending. So whenever a situation makes you defensive, it's because you're not really coming from the depth of your truth. If you're speaking and thinking from the depths of your personal truth, then even if somebody disagrees with you or is trying to make you upset, you would not become defensive. So only illusion becomes defensive in the face of truth. When you're taking a posture, a stance, which is illusionary, and if somebody says the truth, then you're likely to become defensive. So think about that. Emotional defensiveness comes from our attempt to protect ourselves from some sort of pain. So during early childhood, teenagehood, even later on, when we encounter a difficult situation and we don't want to face that situation emotionally, then we devise a defense system to numb out and not feel the pain associated with that painful circumstance or the resulting emotions. Here are some of the typical defense mechanisms that we adopt in order not to feel our difficult emotions. Listen to these: oversleeping, overeating, sudden and uncontrollable rage, workaholism, spending lots of time fantasizing, any obsessive compulsive behavior, or let's say psychosomatic diseases that you invent in order to make your body so ill so that you do not feel the underlying emotions. The problem with the defense mechanism is that it was originally devised to protect you against a painful and unlivable situation. At that point, the defense mechanism that you devised probably saved your life. So for the time that they are recruited and used, defense mechanisms can be very useful. But in nature, everything is changing moment by moment. Since in nature everything changes moment by moment, then an attitude, a belief, a defense mechanism that you adopted 15 years ago is no longer appropriate because the needs of the moment have changed. So a defense mechanism that once saved your life may now be choking you. How does it choke you? A defensive stance, a defense mechanism, contracts the muscles, contracts the heart and the brain so that the life force is not flowing in you. Second problem with the defense mechanism is that the attitude, the belief, the posture that you're defensively taking is not appropriate to the needs of this moment. What I mean is that every moment in life has its own needs. So if your reaction to this moment comes from the past, meaning an old defense system, then you'll be causing yourself great pain because every action must be appropriate to the needs of this moment. A reaction is a response that you have based on old memories. Here, I mean the defense system. As children, we are often raised by parents who themselves were not raised by psychologically and emotionally sensitive parents. Now I'm talking about your grandparents. So if your parents themselves were not acknowledged emotionally while they were growing up, how can they possibly know how to acknowledge your emotions? One of the reasons that we adopt defense systems is that when you're a child and you express some raw emotions to your parents, if you feel that those emotions were not properly acknowledged, then what you may feel is a sense of shame or guilt about the fact that there must have been something wrong with your emotions because when you showed them, they were not properly acknowledged. As a result of feeling guilt or shame, you may decide to subdue and hide your emotions from that point on. And this hiding of emotions then becomes a habit in your later years, so that you get used to being ashamed or subduing your emotions. And all of that cuts off the flow of the life force in your body. You tighten your muscles, everything tightens up within your being. The other thing that defense systems do is that they put you in rigid roles. In other words, every time you adopt a defensive attitude, you are adopting one role. It's a limited role. So somebody who's very angry as a defense system has a limited personality. You don't have that flexibility. Somebody who's always fearful and anxious, they're using fear and anxiety as a defense system. That's limiting their personality. In order to find ways of curing your defensive attitudes, you must go through 4 stages. The first stage is a stage of mindfulness. Whenever you're approaching a situation that triggers you, what I want you to do is take 3 or 4 inhalations and exhalations, and the breathing will make you more mindful. So step 1 in getting rid of defensive attitudes is to simply become mindful as you're stepping into a challenging situation. Follow 3 inhalations and exhalations, and that will increase your mindfulness. While you're becoming mindful, ask yourself, how is my body feeling? Am I feeling constricted? Where am I feeling constricted? In the thighs, in the chest area, in the stomach? Other things you can ask yourself while you're aware. What kind of emotion am I feeling? Am I angry? Am I jealous? Am I envious? Find out your emotions and detect where that emotion is moving in your body. Second step, after mindfulness, ask yourself, what is the root? What is the original root and belief that's being triggered by this defensive situation? By root, I mean trace the childhood root of why you're becoming defensive, or the teenagehood root, or follow a particular circumstance and see which button this circumstance is pressing within you. So first step, becoming mindful. Second step, find the root of which belief, which memory this circumstance is rousing in you and why you're becoming defensive. Thirdly, then you need to embarrass the old belief that is making you defensive. So if originally your parents didn't pay attention to some of your emotions and you felt unworthy, in the third step, you must challenge your belief of unworthiness. You must repeat affirmations, things like, my emotions are worthy, these are my emotions, therefore they are worthwhile, and I'm going to now show them to people who unconditionally love me. And the fourth step in resolving defensiveness is to take small steps out of your conditioned old behavior patterns and take little steps away from a defensive posture. So listen to the 4 steps again. First, you take a few breaths and become mindful that you are becoming defensive, and you gauge which type of emotion you're feeling. Second, you examine which memories and beliefs this defensive circumstance is reminding you of. Third, you change those beliefs by embarrassing those old beliefs. In other words, if at some point you thought worthless because a parent or a grandparent was not acknowledging your emotions, you now say, in terms of an affirmation, you say, now I am a worthy human being, loved with people, loved by people who love me unconditionally. Therefore, I'm going to express my emotions because it is now safe to express my emotions with these people. Finally, the 4th step, you take baby steps out of your comfort zone and you start to act in ways that are different from your usual defensive stance. God bless you. I wish you all of the success in getting rid of your defense systems.